MitoRed Light have just announced that they're coming out with a new range of red light therapy panels. It is called their Mito ADAPT range. In this video, I'm going to take a good look at this announcement and see what it means for us as red light therapy users. Hey guys, Alex here from alexfergus.com, and yeah, MitoRed Light, quite a popular brand, and they've put out some really good panels. The MitoPRO 1500 is quite an extremely good panel. It took out #1 spot in my red light therapy series back in 2022. So they have announced that they have just launched a new range. What is it? The Mito ADAPT series. I don't have any of the panels yet because they do have a couple of sizes, the min, the mid, and the max. I don't have any yet. I'm sure I'll get one very soon and I'll do a full review on that. However, this is my last week of recording before I take a few weeks off over Christmas and have a week break. So I'm not going to be able to get that panel and get it reviewed for maybe a few months yet. Now, I'm already getting questions, hey, what do you think of the Mito ADAPT range, and is it worth the upgrade and all this sort of jazz? And I thought, you know what, I'm going to do this quick video where I look at what MitoRed have announced, look at the specs and the features and the new technology they're using, and just share my thoughts with you guys. So at least that should buy some time, so to speak. If you're looking for the full review, then hey, you'll just have to wait a little bit, but at least this should give you a bit of insight. So what I've done is I've gone over to the MitoRed Light website, MitoRedLight.com. I'll put a link to all of this below. If you do want to order any of their panels, discount code Alex should save you a couple %. I believe it will still work on the Mito ADAPT range. They have overhauled their website, by the way, so it's all looking rather nice on there. So as you scroll down, you can see their Mito ADAPT series, and then their MitoPRO series, which is something I'm quite familiar with. I've reviewed their 1500 and their smaller tabletop panel. But it's the Mito ADAPT series that I want to look at here. So firstly, when you look at the panel itself, this is their smaller one, their tabletop one. You can see that there's a new screen on here, which is pretty neat. Otherwise, it looks pretty similar, right? Like it's still a standard sort of red light therapy panel. So that looks all good there. So what I'm going to do here is look at some of the features before we look at the prices and sizes. So patent pending, dual chip multi-wave design, 11 different possible modes. To learn more about it, let's read the article. So we're going to pull all these up and we're going to learn a bit more about it. So first we'll play this video.
Okay, so we're very excited about our brand new Mito ADAPT series. This is the Mito ADAPT Min. The Mito ADAPT has all of the same great features of the MitoPRO series and more. So the Mito ADAPT has the same industry-leading irradiance. We've third-party tested and validated the power and spectral output. We use the most advanced components, the state-of-the-art components we can find, to guarantee low EMF and advanced flicker-free drives, so there's no flicker and no stress to the body. The Mito ADAPT also has a built-in digital control panel and timer, and it does have modular capability, so you can connect the devices physically and electrically. The Mito
Okay, so far it's all just standard stuff, nothing really new here.
ADAPT is also compatible with our multiple stand options that we have: floor stand, horizontal stand, and vertical stand. It can also be hung on the back of a door. Where the Mito ADAPT really shines is in its patent pending multi-wavelength design. So the Mito ADAPT, unlike any other light on the market, contains 2 chips per lens in the face of the panel. So what we've done is we've put 2 different colored LED chips under each lens. Now we've done this in a way that allows us to generate 11 different possible combinations of wavelengths from the device.
Okay, so what he's saying here is each LED, I've got a Biomax 300 here, probably not the best one to show, but what they're saying is each bulb up here typically has 1 chip, right? Now what he's saying is the new one actually has 2. From the Mito ADAPT range, they have 2. So now Scott actually said that this hasn't been seen before in the market. I'm assuming he's meaning the larger ones, because a lot of the small handheld ones are dual chip. I mean, I know even MitoRed Light's belt, I think, is triple chip. So he's obviously referring to the larger panels here, but I think it's Luminous Red. I believe they use dual chip LEDs as well. I've reviewed that panel, it was a while ago. I'm pretty sure they did. They're based in Europe, so maybe Scott's not quite familiar with them. But anyway, let's go back to the video because I'm curious to see what he says here about this new wavelength feature.
11 different possible combinations of wavelengths from the device. This doesn't exist anywhere else in the market, and we do have a patent pending on the design. So what does this mean for you? Well, let's talk about the wavelengths first. The wavelengths that we've chosen to include are 630 nanometer red, 660 nanometer red, 810 nanometer near infrared, and 850 nanometer near infrared.
Okay, so that is a big change. They've introduced 810 nanometers and dropped out 830, I believe.
10 nanometer near infrared and 850 nanometer.
Yeah, dropped out 830. So yeah, I mean, that is a big change. I like 810. A lot of people ask about 810. I know Scott Kennedy from LightPath LED is a massive fan of 810. And I've actually answered comments where people, or questions where people wanted a panel that had 810 and they didn't go with MitoRed light because it didn't have it. So yeah, it's a good change there. I'm still trying to get my head around this whole 11 different possible modes. So we'll keep watching.
Nanometer near infrared. So what that allows us to do is to generate an enhanced spectral energy output range of 590 nanometers up to 700 nanometers red and 760 nanometers up to 900 nanometers near infrared. So we get this broad coverage through the therapeutic window.
Okay, so that's really interesting. So I'm wondering if this is, for those of you that have watched a lot of my content, you would have seen when I use my spectrometer here that I test the panel's wavelength output and we're looking for the peaks, right? But as you would have seen in those graphs, it's not just a straight up and down, it's a curve. So you're actually getting a lot of energy. Let's say the peak is 660 nanometer red light. You're typically getting a lot of energy from, say, 650 through to 670, and some have a fatter curve and some are quite narrow. But when you get these panels that combine multiple wavelengths, you know, maybe a 630 and a 660, you get two big peaks, but in the middle you're still getting a ton of light. And I've often said, hey, look, you could you're not just getting your 630 and your 660, you're getting 645, you're getting 647, you're getting all those wavelengths in between, which is a good thing. You're not getting them at the same intensity, but you're still getting exposure to them, which is probably good. And I've often said, like, surely a company could come out and just say, hey, look, we have a panel that emits 620 to 660 or 620 to 680 nanometer red light and 800 to 900 nanometer near infrared light. And I've said that a few times. So I'm thinking that this is what MitoRed have done here with that comment just then, which is entirely true. I mean, without testing their panel, of course, I can see why they're saying it. But I'm still curious to see what this 11 different possible modes is. I'm assuming what it is you can turn some off, and we'll watch and learn a bit more.
Furthermore, what the 11 modes allows us to do is it allows you to find the combinations of wavelengths that work best for you, your use case, and your specific situation. So as the red light therapy industry evolves, we're finding that different wavelengths work for different applications. And different wavelengths might work differently on different individuals. So what the MitoADAPT is really designed to do is to put the power in your hands so that you can find what works best for you. Another thing that we're excited about is that we've developed a mobile app that allows you to control your MitoADAPT from your smartphone. So I'll give an example.
So this is interesting. We'll come back to the 11 different mode thing because I think I need to read up a bit more before I make a comment on that. The app's interesting because we just saw Platinum LED come out with their app so they can control it. I've said before, apps have been around for a long time, since the first gen. Of course, they've been around for a long time. Apps and red light therapy panels have been around for a long time. We saw them years ago. I think RedRush had an app. Now, typically it was like a dosage calculator, and I thought it was always a bit of a gimmick. Juve launched their app which acted as a remote plus unlocked some more advanced features, which I was a bit annoyed about. I was like, why don't you just have these features on the panel itself? Platinum have come out with an app which is just a remote control. Hey, cool if you want it, but you don't need it. It does exactly the same thing that the panel itself does. So it looks like MitoRed have launched an app that is also going to act as a remote control, but let's keep watching.
The 11 modes pop up right on the home screen. And you can, for example, select mode 1, which is 25% of each of the 4 wavelengths. And you hit start. And then the MitoADAPT will tell you that to put on your eye protection and then it will start up in roughly 4 to 7 seconds, and there we go. And if at any time you need to stop the session, there's a stop button. You can hit stop and stop the session. Again, the beautiful thing about the MitoADAPT is the flexibility. Let's say you want to try a different combination of wavelengths today. So there are 2 different ways to control your MitoADAPT. One is from a mobile app, which we've developed, and the other is right on the control panel. So it's very easy to do. You just hit set.
Okay, so here Scott just explains how to change all the settings. It's not that engaging to watch, so we're going to skip that. But the app, yeah, it acts as a remote, and as he mentioned now, there's programmed combinations in the app, and I guess on the panel as well, where you can go in and say, look, I only want 660 and 850, or I want 810 and 660, or I want 660, 810 and 850. So I'm guessing those are all the different combination modes, which is, yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool. I suppose you could do a little bit of that, say, with a panel like the Infrared Flex or the Platinum LED panel, where you could, you know, lower, you know, Platinum LED, you could, in the Biomax range, you could say 50% near infrared and 100% red light, or 0 and 100, or 50-50. So you did get a bit of an option there. However, the red light wavelengths and the near infrared light wavelengths are all packaged together. You can't independently change them. So the MitoRed ADAPT panels do give you a bit more control and a bit more options, which is exciting. And like Scott said, like, it allows you to experiment and see what works well with you. Personally, I just have everything on full power and get the most out of the panel. If there's 810 and 850 and 630 and 660, I'm like, I want it all. Like, turn them all on. I mean, I'm sure over time we may find that, hey, look, you know, 632 works really well on its own for this reason, but when you add in 850, it doesn't work as well. I'm sure something like that will come out, but could be a long time before we find out, which is why I just run everything. But hey, those people that want to experiment, this is going to be pretty cool. So I'm going to look at some of the articles they put out before we come back to the pricing. Here we go. So you got different modes. So it's a bit blurry here, but mode 1 is an even split, 25, 25, 25 between all the wavelengths. Mode 2, 50-50, 660 and 630. So that's just red light. Mode 3 is 50% 660, 25% 810. All right, so it's just different combinations of the LEDs there that are in play, which, yeah, I mean, it's cool. I think it's a good feature. It's not necessarily a total game changer in my opinion, because you could do some of this and before with other panels, and I don't know if most people are like me, they're just going to have most of the lights right on. But I mean, it might be interesting. We might start seeing that, hey, like mode 5, for instance, works really, really well with deep sleep. It might take a lot of time and experimentation for people to figure that out. But if it does, you know, if people do figure something like that out, then that's cool. You can just go in and hit mode 5 and know that you're going to get better sleep. I don't know. So they've got a few articles explaining all those new features. I'm not going to go through all of this. Oh, here we go. This was the modes in higher resolution. So you can head over to MitoRed Light to watch all of this, but I'm going to go down and see the second video. Yeah, see, they've got a new control panel. Now, that is good. I like the fact that there's a new control panel there. They've still got their stands, a vertical floor stand. Let's have a look at this video and see what's...
Okay, so to operate your MitoADAPT from the control panel...
I was hoping I'd get a close-up of the app, but we can't really see much then, so we'll have to wait until I get one and I can do some good close-up shots.
Usage of the devices and collect subjective session, just hit stop. So one of the things we're really excited about with the MitoADAPT is the mobile app compatibility. Not only allows you the power to control your device from your smartphone, but it does allow us to collect data on usage of the devices and collect subjective feedback on what's working for people. So now, why is that important? So for the most part, the way the red light therapy industry works is we send a light out. We say, well, use it roughly for 8 to 12 minutes, and you should generally see benefit if you use it consistently. But there really has been no way to determine what's working and what's not working for individuals, for different use cases. So really our hope is that when we send the device out and you use the app, we will ask you on a regular basis for your feedback. How did you sleep? How is your energy level? How is your recovery from exercise? And we will try to correlate the feedback we receive from our customers with the modes that they're using. And we hope that in a year or two, after gathering many, many thousands of data points, that we might be able to come up with data-driven, customized protocols that really help people dial in what modes should be used for what use case.
There we go, that's quite interesting. So that app is not just only a remote, it's also tracking or logging what sessions you do and how they're running, like what mode you're in, and then I'm assuming the app asks for, you know, the feedback, like how you're feeling, and that it'd be cool if they could pull your data from Apple Health or your Oura Ring or your Fitbit or whatever, and maybe they wouldn't need to ask you as much. It could just be like, well, we can see your sleep. Then Scott's saying we'll take all this data and information and see if we can determine some patterns in that. I'm going to be a little bit critical of that for a couple of reasons. Firstly, it requires people to be consistent using the app and tracking everything. Like I've said many, many times, I personally don't think red light therapy panels need apps. You know, I just turn them on, and when it's finished, turn it off. I don't really want to get my phone out. That's why I was so critical of Juve. Like you had to, for some of the advanced options, you had to do it through your app. And I'm like, bloody hell, like, can we just put another button on there? So it requires people using it all the time. Secondly, it requires people to provide that information in an accurate manner, but you're going to be, it's still not going to be perfect, is it? Because, you know, like maybe you've just had a baby, you've got a baby in your house, and no matter what red light therapy session you're doing, your sleep's horrible, your energy's horrible, your stress is through the roof, right? So you're going to get that dirty data, so to speak. And thirdly, there's so many variables. I mean, were they standing the right distance from the panel? Or did they have their clothes off? Were they using it properly? Did they actually do that time? Like maybe it was running for 10 minutes, but they, you know, were mucking around. Like I do this all the time. I turn mine on, then I go get a glass of water, and then I go to the bathroom, and then, you know, I pick something up, and then whatever, like I do all this other stuff, and I finally get there and I've lost 3-4 minutes. So you're getting all that, like I say, dirty data being fed in, and you may not necessarily get the best outcomes or results from it. However, if there's enough data, like we're talking hundreds of thousands of data points here, you'd like to think that a lot of that rubbish will kind of be pushed to the side, and you will get some nice correlations. I don't know, it'll be interesting to see, and it'll be, if you're watching this, I'm curious, would you track all your sessions? So some people might not like it from a privacy point of view as well. I know Juve tracks sessions, so it has been around before. It's not a completely new concept, but yeah, some people may not like being tracked, or they may not like MitoRed asking how they feel. It's like, hey, it's none of your business. The other thing is you could easily lie as well, so that screws up the data. But anyway, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this concept. Remember, this is just an add-on on the physical hardware. The product itself has been improved and changed. There's new features, so all that's good. You could just buy it and just not even download the app, which, yeah, I'm sure there will be people that do that. But I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are on that. I actually think I can understand why MitoRed are doing this, because if they can figure out that, look, we've got all these data points, and everyone that uses mode 3 has said that, you know, they feel stronger in the gym. For their next model, they're going to, instead of having mode 3, they'll have like gym performance mode, and just tap that and away you go. I like that. I like that they're trying to do that, and that's something that I've said many times actually to companies when they've asked me for advice, and I think a few times in videos. If you can make it so you've just got a button for sleep, a button for performance, a button for recovery, and just simplify it for people, people would love that, and I would love that. But I think that approach is going to come from science and less from user experiences and user input. But I may be wrong. I've been wrong many times before, and I may be wrong here. And I like the fact that MitoRed Light are trying something different here, and they're trying to learn, and they're trying to engage with their clients and customers and help them, and, you know, get more data points so they can help them in the future, but also help build better products. Like, I like that. It's cool. I'm just curious to see how it will go. So anyway, that's enough about the features. Let's quickly have a look at the pricing. So we've got the min, which is the smallest one, $549, the mid, $1,000, and the max. Now, is the max wider? Because I know the MitoPRO 1500 was quite narrow and tall. I'm wondering if it's if it's slightly different size. Here we go. Okay, no, so I'm just looking here. The MitoPRO 1500 was 42 by 10. So it's the max is actually shorter and narrower. So yeah, it's a bit of a bummer. I suppose you get the idea is you get two of them and go wider. And it's, see here, they don't have LED count. The MitoPRO 1500 has 300 LEDs. MitoADAPT Max has 216 lenses, but because there's 2 chips in there, 432 chips. So you could say there's 400 odd LEDs. It's, yeah, it gets a bit, it's going to be interesting to see how I quantify all of that going forward, but I'll worry about that later on. And then as we saw before, you can get the stands. What was the price? The MitoADAPT Max, $1,400. The MitoPRO 1500 is $1,150. So you're paying a premium for these new panels as well. I believe discount code Alex will save you a little bit of cash on them. So look, that's all I want to cover. Warranty's 3 years as well, which is good. That's all I want to cover. All of this information is over at MitoRedLight.com. I will, hey look, I may even get on a call, Scott, if that's something you'd like me to do, and interview him and go through some of these new features. Of course, get 1 or 2 of these and review them. Unfortunately, I won't have the mid for my tabletop series, which would have been cool, but it's how it works in this space. Like when you do a big comparison series or whatever, you have to set a date and you use what's available then, because if you always wait for that next product or the new one, you never get anywhere. I mean, Platinum were lucky because they just came out with their new Bimax 300 like a few weeks ago before I did this big comparison, so they'll get their new one in. But like Rogue have come out with new ones, Lightpath LED have just announced a new one. So I know it means when I put this data out, it'll be a little bit outdated straight away, but like I said, at some point you just got to draw a line. So that's a bummer, but hey, I'll do my best to get a standalone review of this. All right, if you've enjoyed this, likes, thumbs up, comment. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the new panel, the new 11 mode features, the app. Yeah, really keen to hear your thoughts on it, and be sure to subscribe. All right, guys, bye.